yet again this week has been all about Marks and Spencer. So Stuart Rose may have survived the AGM, but is he going to fight his way out of the trouble that M&S has found itself in? Welcome to this week's TGi Friday with myself, Tim Danaher. I'm the editor of Retail Week. I'm joined by George MacDonald, deputy editor of the magazine, to talk about the week's events in retail. And really, George, once again, M&S was the big story. I watched the AGM webcast on Wednesday, and it seemed to be a lot of old people moaning about carrier bags and sleeveless tops. You were there on the scene. Was it really as tame as that? Did Stuart have quite such an easy ride?
Yeah, I think it went off not with a bang but a whimper, which is what he would have wanted. The thing to remember, I guess, is that despite the expectation of fireworks, the people who turn up at the AGM tend to be the private shareholders. They love the lunch they get that day, and they love Stuart Rose. They haven't fallen out of love with him yet. It was quite noticeable how long it took before anybody brought up the corporate governance controversy. They really don't seem to care, despite the fact that it's annoyed the city so much. So I think now it'll be back to business as normal for Sir Stuart and his pals.
So what do you think happens now? He's got through the AGM. There were a few abstentions, but he's in the clear. Presumably it's just a time for heads down, concentrate on getting the business back on track.
Definitely, because he's got through this particular scrape, but he's not out of the woods. His problem, of course, his real problem, is that trading has fallen off a cliff in the last few weeks and months, and he has to sort that out. The whole market has gone down, but in food in particular, there's specific problems within the company. So I think he will be really wanting to address those, and all his managers will be feeling his breath on their collar.
Yeah, they will, and as you say, there is absolutely loads to do, isn't there, right across the business. As you said, the food business has clearly gone really badly wrong somewhere. Stephen Sharp said the other day that the company's going to be looking again at the advertising. There are all sorts of questions that need to be answered. Do you think the top team he's got in place there, he obviously made a bit of an error of judgment over Stephen Easton with food. Do you think he's got the right team in there now that can get things back on get the show back on the road?
Yeah, I mean, when people were questioning his own position, in the same way that no one really suggested he should go, nobody has suggested that any of the top management should go. Kate Bostock, in charge of women's wear clothing, very highly regarded. Trading's clearly been difficult, and some of their problems will have been self-inflicted, but there are no calls for her to go. Similarly, the new guy in food, John Dixon, he's been presented as really au fait with M&S's food, what makes it special, what makes its food appeal to customers. So he'll hopefully be pressing some of those buttons again and increasing the pace of innovation. That seems to be part of the problem, that they've been really quite slow over the last year to adapt, both in terms of the changing price environment and the fact that the extent of competition in food, just in things like quality, choice, has really increased apace.
You mentioned fashion just then, George, and Primark yesterday announced pretty tough quarter by its standards and by the stellar standard we've come to expect of that amazing business. Just a blip and a reflection of the market, or do you think there's something more serious going on there?
I think it is a reflection of the market. I think it actually gives Stuart Rose some ammunition, because if the mighty Primark is at zero like-for-like growth, then that shows right across fashion retail things are really tough. But what's really amazing is the fact that 0% is regarded as such a good performance in the current climate.
That's a lot of retailers would give their right arm for that, wouldn't they?
They would.
Particularly in fashion at the moment. But we've seen a couple of interesting appointments at Primark as well, which shows that the business really seems to be planning for the future, both in terms of expanding internationally and also perhaps preparing for the day when Arthur Ryan finally does decide to call it a day.
Yeah, we reported a few weeks ago that Paul Marchant from New Look is joining Primark. He looks like the heir apparent to Ryan. And then this week they poached Guy Young from CNA. I think that's a very interesting hire, because although CNA left this country several years back, it's still a big force in Europe and doing well, and it's also at the value end. So I think bringing someone in from New Look probably is an indication that they're really going to motor on the continent now, move into some new markets in Northern Europe, not just Spain, where they've been trying things out over the past year or so.
And of course we can't finish without mentioning Sports Direct. They kept us all entertained all through last year. Been a lot quieter on that front through 2008 so far, but of course we forget the company still doesn't have a chairman, and there were a pretty dreadful set of figures that came out yesterday. Any positive signs you can pick out of the prelims which came out yesterday?
Yeah, he's had a very controversial first year as a public company, and those results were in line with expectations, but very much reduced expectations. I think there are a few signs of change, though. They've said that they're going to start reporting like-for-like sales, which they haven't traditionally done. I think they're only going to do it once a year, though, and I don't think they're going to start for about a year.
Well, we can't expect too much when Mike Ashley's involved.
No, but really, how ironic is it that a year ago there was all this controversy about Mike Ashley and who was going to be the chairman. It's all just been forgotten about, and the numbers aren't fantastic numbers. Yet in the case of M&S, we've had this similar sort of storm, but if Rose can get the numbers back up, then I'm sure his corporate governance row will be a storm in the teacup.
Yeah, that's poor Stuart's been getting the kicking while Ashley's been getting away with it, I guess. Yeah. Well, thanks very much, George, and thanks for watching. Hope you've enjoyed this week's TGi Friday. We'll be back next Friday with our next roundup of the week's events. But in the meantime, thanks for watching and have a great weekend.